I just had a really weird dream last night that Nintendo announced a remake of Paper Mario the Thousand Year Door coming out on the Nintendo Switch. I know, like that would ever happen. What? So yeah, it's official. Paper Mario the Thousand Year Door getting a remake for the Nintendo Switch coming out in 2024. I did actually have that in my direct predictions video, but it was not something I at all expected to see happen. But it's awesome to see. I think it shows that Nintendo is actually listening to fans at least a little bit. Because Paper Mario, specifically Thousand Year Door, coming back in some way is something that has just been so heavily requested over the past, I want to say at least decade. And so to see it finally happen, I think that Nintendo has taken a little bit of cues from their audience, and I think it can mean good things for the Paper Mario franchise going forward. Because the last few entries have not been good. Not really what fans of the original two games were wanting. And yeah, it's good for a series to change up occasionally and breathe new life into it, but not in the way that these games did. So I just wanted to take a few minutes and go over what I think could be the future of the Paper Mario series. But first, let's take a little look back, a little history lesson into the depths of Paper Mario. So the Paper Mario story actually starts out before Paper Mario did, with Super Mario RPG released on the Super Nintendo. And of course, that's the one that's getting a remake coming out in November. I haven't played the original, I'm waiting for the remake, I'm really looking forward to it, but from what I've seen of the game, it looks like it was very much the blueprint for what Paper Mario would be. Sort of a fairly basic RPG with some timed action commands to give it a little bit more pizzazz. A charming story set in the Mario universe, very approachable for someone who maybe has not played RPGs before. And so Nintendo took that formula that Square at the time had established, handed it over to Intelligent Systems to make Paper Mario on the Nintendo 64. Again, it's an RPG that is not super complicated, it's fairly basic. You know, a lot of people say it's baby's first RPG, which I don't really see that much as a criticism, seeing as every genre needs to have some sort of entry point. So it's very approachable, it's not really difficult, it's just a fun time. It's nice to just sit back, have a cup of coffee, have a cup of hot chocolate, and play some Paper Mario. I actually only played through the game entirely relatively recently when it came out on Nintendo Switch Online. Before that, my experience with it had actually been in hotels, which, if anyone remembers, a lot of hotel chains in like the early 2000s, they would have Nintendo 64s built into the TV somehow, and you could pay like $10 for an hour of some N64 game. And so the ones I would always go between would be Super Mario 64 and Paper Mario. So I had played the first hour of Paper Mario like 5 times at least, so I was very familiar with that, but anything beyond that I had no idea what to expect. And it's a great game. Great writing, charming characters, very unique world, venturing through the Mushroom Kingdom. It's just a super enjoyable experience. But then they took that enjoyable experience and really expanded upon it in the next game in the series, Paper Mario the Thousand Year Door. That's right, I actually own a physical copy of this. Please don't break into my house. The Thousand Year Door basically took what Paper Mario on the N64 did and expanded on it in a lot of ways. More items, more interesting environments, the badge system, really cool special moves, and a story and world that is really unrivaled, I think, in terms of a lot of Nintendo games, at least. Like, there's not many Nintendo games that have a noose hanging in the middle of the hub world as soon as you walk in. And so it's for all these reasons that Thousand Year Door is really thought of as the high watermark of the Paper Mario series. And why it's been so frustrating that Nintendo never really went back on that formula and looked to improve it or at least use it in much of any way. Because the next game of the franchise released on the Wii and is Super Paper Mario. And it's a very different game from Thousand Year Door. It's not a bad game. I actually like the game a lot. It's really fun. It's basically a platformer RPG. So it's really unique, and I can't think at least of any other Nintendo games that really are similar to it, because it has a lot of the RPG elements that you might want, but it's a 2D platformer, which is pretty cool. But what's kind of weird is they take basically the structure of the original Super Mario Brothers, basically have a world and have 4 levels within it, and you just have to get to the end of each level. Of course, there's a lot of different things that you do in each level. You don't just walk from left to right. But with how creative the game is in terms of its world and its level design, it's a bit of a shame that it's hampered into this very rigid structure, because some of the levels and the worlds in this game are crazy. Like, there's one where you're basically just trapped in this mansion the whole time, and you have to earn money to like buy your freedom. It's crazy. It's not really what fans of the Thousand Year Door were wanting, but it's a super unique game. I hope that it can have a second life someday. So not a bad game, but not what Paper Mario fans were looking for. But what Paper Mario fans were really not looking for was this: Paper Mario Sticker Star. That's right, I own this one physically too. This will be a good deterrent from people breaking into my house. Sticker Star is not a terrible game, it's just very underwhelming. The combat is based around using stickers that you find in the world, so every action you take is a consumable, which doesn't feel great. It kind of just makes you want to avoid the combat because you are going to use stickers in the combat, and then your reward for it will be more stickers. So not really much of a point in it.
Backing up! I have to back up! I need more stickers! Don't have enough stickers!
The levels are super segmented, sort of like they were in Super Paper Mario, but they don't have the unique aspects of Super Paper Mario in order to make up for that. There's some creative ideas in the game, but overall the changes to the original Paper Mario formula don't really come into place in a way that makes them worth it. It kind of feels like they just changed things up just to make it different. So it's not a terrible game, but it's not a very great game. But my mentality on it was, it's a 3DS game. It's kind of just like, whatever. They're gonna fit a smaller game onto a smaller system. It's fine for the 3DS. But the next one, the next home console Paper Mario, that's gonna be the Thousand Year Door-like experience we've all been wanting, right? No. Not at all. The next one was Paper Mario Color Splash on the Wii U. I do not own that one physically, and I'm very proud of that fact. Color Splash was very much a doubling down on the Sticker Star format, and it became very clear that they were really going all in on this papercraft design of the world, which for the most part in these newer Paper Mario games is well executed, but it's not necessary, and I think it misses the original point of Paper Mario. Because Paper Mario is not called Paper Mario because he and the world are made out of paper. It's called Paper Mario because it's part of a storybook. That's why the first few games start with a storybook opening up. But then these later Paper Mario games just went all in on the paper look to the world, which is done well, but it gets really tiring. It's like, hey, this is made of paper. You get it? You get it? You get it? It might be more impressive if Nintendo didn't do this kind of aesthetic with other games and other series. Like there was Yoshi's Woolly World and Yoshi's Crafted World. There was the Kirby and the Rainbow Curse, or Kirby Canvas Curse, or whatever they're called. It just seems like Nintendo really likes to do this handcrafted paper aesthetic to a lot of their games, which is cool the first time, but then just gets tiring after that. The best aspect of Color Splash is probably the writing. There's some pretty good humor in it, although it does get a little bit into like millennial humor territory. And I say this as a millennial, it's just a little tiring. Some of the jokes feel like they were written by Twitter users. And so following the Wii U, of course, was the Nintendo Switch and the idea of a new Paper Mario game, which maybe this one would be a return to the classic formula that everyone has been craving for so long. I remember there was a fairly credible leaker who said that a new Paper Mario game would be announced and it would be going back to how it was, which got a lot of people excited. And so in the middle of the pandemic, Nintendo announced this: Paper Mario, the Origami King. This game, I do not like this game. I do not like it one bit. I would even say its existence is an insult to me, because there are aspects of the Origami King which are improvements from Sticker Star and Color Splash. Like the layout of the world is not so segmented, it's all fairly interconnected, which is nice. The writing, again, is pretty good, a little too millennial-ish, but still solid. But the gameplay and the story, or the lack of a story, the lack of any real characters in the story. Dear God. First of all, the battle system is this rotating rings thing, which is a unique idea, and I think it could be well executed in a different type of game. But why is this the battle system of a Paper Mario game? You had the perfect battle system established with the 1,000-Year Door like 5 games ago. Why are you going this drastic of a change? There's a part early on in like the tutorial section where the partner character is telling you about how the battle system works. I remember at one point it even says, wow, clicking them together to line them up is so satisfying. If your game has to tell me that its battle system is satisfying, it can't be that satisfying, can it? Every aspect of the game feels like a half measure. It's like they heard the requests of all the 1,000-Year Door fans and just did like 35% of each request. Like there's kind of partners, but they don't really do that much. They don't really have much in terms of personalities. They don't have names, which is really weird. They don't have unique designs. They're really all in on the papercraft thing once again with the whole theme of origami. Everything is made of paper. Shoves that paper down your throat. So there's kind of this Nintendo urban legend about something called the Mario Mandate, which is basically a set of rules for how Mario characters can appear in games. There's been a debate over whether it's real or not, but I think at least for a large chunk of the Wii U and the Switch's life, it has been pretty accurate that it's real. Because various people at Nintendo have talked about the inability to alter existing character designs. Like you can give a Toad a hat, but you can't give a Toad, let's say, a beard. Like you can give them certain accessories, kind of, but you can't alter the original design too much. Which I don't understand the reasoning for that kind of thing at all. Like I don't think anyone is going to see a Toad with, let's say, glasses and a mustache and be like, what character is this? That can't be Toad. He has glasses and a mustache. And so that's why in a lot of these newer Paper Mario games, you see basically just the same generic Toad, red spots, blue vest for every single Toad. And so it seems like designers are able to create entirely new characters that don't look like they're a part of the Mario world, but they're not able to alter existing characters in any meaningful way, which is a lot of the charm of the 1,000-Year Door. You had characters like Goombella, which was like a pink Goomba with makeup and a prospector hat and a ponytail. And I think Origami King is a very clear indication that this Mario Mandate thing has been real, at least up until recently. Because it doesn't feel like a game where the designers were just told, hey, do whatever you want. It feels like they were given very, very strict limitations about what they could do with the world of the game, and it suffers majorly for that. And so during this time of the Paper Mario series having its ups and downs, there was actually another Mario RPG series running alongside of it. And that is the Mario and Luigi games. Gameplay-wise, they have a lot of similarities to Paper Mario, pretty basic turn-based stuff with action commands to give you a little bit more interactivity. It's had a good number of titles on the Game Boy, DS, and 3DS. The one that people seem to like the most is the first one, Superstar Saga, which is available on Nintendo Switch Online, and I gotta say, I don't see that many people talking about how good it is these days. Because it's an okay game, but I think its praise is a little bit overstated, because it drags on a fair bit, and I don't think it has enough variety in its environments or its combat to justify its running time. And I think having two Mario RPG series worked more before, when Mario and Luigi was on the handheld line, and Paper Mario was on the console line. It sort of gave each series their own unique identity in their different places, but that kind of got changed up with Sticker Star on the 3DS, so now there were two Mario RPGs on the same system. The two series even crossed over at one point with Mario and Luigi Paper Jam, which is really weird. Like, of all the series to cross over, I don't know why it would be those two. I'm picturing some executive at Nintendo saying, we should do a crossover. What series should we do? I know, how about Mario and Mario? But the book of Mario and Luigi actually came to a close with the developer of it, Alpha Dream, going out of business fairly recently. And when stories about that were going around, it was kind of like, whoa, what is going to happen with the Mario and Luigi series, and what's going to happen with the Paper Mario series? Because it makes sense having two Mario RPG series going on different consoles, but now we're here on the Switch and it's the same console, handheld and home console. So it doesn't really make as much sense to have two series going. And so now, of course, we just the other day had Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door announced in the Nintendo Direct, getting a full remake on the Switch. And it looks pretty fantastic. They did away with the big chunky white outlines from the new Paper Mario games, which might not necessarily be a bad design choice, but they're not very visually appealing, and they're just very reminiscent of the terrible gameplay that the new games have. They've still got the paper crafting going, but it's a lot more subtle, which I appreciate, and they're keeping all the original designs for the characters and the enemies. It's not just generic toads everywhere. And so this remake really looks to be the best case scenario for Thousand Year Door fans, which is incredible. I'm happy it's a remake and not just like a remaster or a port, because there are a few areas of the game that could use a little bit of tightening up. Specifically, Chapter 2 is a pretty big drop off in quality from Chapter 1, and the Twilight Town chapter has a lot of backtracking that could really be cut down. But it looks to be extremely faithful, which I guess we'll see. That might be for better or for worse, but even if they don't adjust those kind of things, it's still going to be a really great experience to be able to play actually on modern hardware with modern visuals. And so my hope for Paper Mario going forward is that this game will sell well and review well, and Nintendo will take that as an indication that yes, this is the formula that Paper Mario fans want for new games. Because I think the fact that this game exists at all shows they're listening, because Nintendo seems like a company that has its fingers in its ears a lot of the time. They go their own way, and sometimes that can lead to really awesome experiences in games, but sometimes it can be really frustrating to see them run into the same problems again and again and again. But very occasionally they'll show that they are listening to fan requests. Things like Banjo coming to Smash really come to mind for things like that, and now this remake of Thousand Year Door. And so what I really hope is that this remake is not just a one-off thing and it's like, okay, you wanted your Thousand Year Door, you got your Thousand Year Door, now we're gonna go make Paper Mario Stapler Stampede or something. Because that would be very disheartening to see after this. But seeing things like Mario RPG get remade and now this get remade, I think the future could be bright, maybe. Because it would be awesome to see a new Paper Mario game with this remake's visual style and basic structure of Thousand Year Door, but in a new world with unique characters, with interesting partners, with chapters that totally change up the plot and what you need to do in them from level to level. And so Thousand Year Door, it's a really special game. If you have not played it before, I would highly recommend you pick this up whenever it comes out, because I sort of feel like this is Nintendo giving Paper Mario, good Paper Mario, another shot. And if it can deliver in terms of sales and in terms of critical reception, we could be seeing a resurgence of this style, which would be amazing to see after all of these years of trash after trash after trash. Alright, that is the end of the video. Thank you for watching.